I appreciate everybody coming out this morning. Did this early service, and everyone got up here this morning and said, good morning, good morning, good morning. And I'm just going to say thanks for coming. When I teach Sunday school for Rick in our class, it goes out that I'm teaching and nobody shows up. So I'm glad there's a few people in here. Most of you know me. Those of you who don't, my name is Jack Kellerman, and I'm going to give you my testimony. And a little background on me is my dad was in the military, 22 years in the Air Force, moved around a lot, lived overseas and stuff. And I didn't know Jesus, didn't know God until I was probably 18 years old. Never heard the name. My folks were divorced when we got back from Germany in '74. And I have an older half-brother, and him and I said, well, we'll live with Mom. Mom took us from Dad, and that's where we lived for a couple of years. And we thought that was good. We had no rules. Nobody cared about us. Mom, she did drugs, alcohol, and that's how we learned to do things. And after a while, it was like, I got tired of eating popcorn and beans every day, literally, going to school, looking forward to going to school so I could get something to eat. So my dad said, well, one year we went to go visit him during the summer, and he said, why don't you come live with us? And he was married to my stepmom, and we said, okay, and he was stationed in Big Springs, Texas at the time. So we went to live with him, and it was good for a few years, and then they had kids. 2 more brothers came along. Well, when that came along, and then the physical abuse came along. I couldn't do anything. My brother couldn't do anything right. And so we would go from one situation to another. And at 11 years old, I remember at my grandma's house, not knowing God, not knowing Jesus, not knowing anything, I tried to commit suicide. Fortunately, about 11, 12 years old, you don't know how to do it properly. So we went on. And when I graduated high school, the only way to get out of a little town called Garnett, Kansas, was either you farmed or you went to college or military. So I went to the military just to get out of the house. I spent some time in the military, and that's when I first learned about church. And my story for that one is, at Fort Leonard, Missouri, in the middle of July, it's like 155 degrees at noon. So on a Sunday afternoon, they were like, who wants to go to church or who wants to go march in the woods? And I'm like, air conditioning, woods. I'm going to go to the church where it's air conditioned at. So I went, and we sang songs and had a good time. But I never went back. I graduated. I got my duty station. I was stationed at Fort Polk, Louisiana. And at 18 years old, those of us that's been in the military as a single and 18 and nobody to answer to, I was wild. I got into alcohol because that's what I knew. I got into drugs because that's what I knew. And I did that for a while. I got reprimanded. I got some hard time in the military, but I stayed in. It did give me discipline. It did give me manners in the military, but still I was wild. While in there, I met my first wife. That's Kayla's mom. And yes, we met at a bar. So we dated, and we ended up getting married. Kayla came along in 1989, and it was all good. I still didn't have God in my life, though, and I thought I was doing good. Well, in 1997, April, she was diagnosed with lung cancer. I had got out of the Army. I was a National Guard, but I got out of the Army. I was working offshore in the Gulf of Mexico as a roughneck. And when I got the news, they flew me in, and we went to the doctor together, find out what the options was, and she had two tumors in her lungs, and there was no way to get rid of them but through chemo and radiation. So she told me, she said, Jack, you've got to go to work. You've got to get back to work, and we'll deal with this when you come in about another week. We'll find out more information. So I went back, and on my way back out to the water, so to speak, I think that was probably the first time I actually prayed. I knew there was always a God out there. And when you're in the military, as I said earlier service, you'll never find an atheist in a foxhole. And I've been to other places. I've been to Panama during the 80s, during the Conquering trials and stuff. I got shot at down there. I'm an Iraqi veteran, been there and done that. Been to Honduras. So I knew there was somebody out there bigger than me. But like everybody else, I kept him away. I didn't know his name, didn't know where to go to. So when she got sick in April, I prayed about it. I didn't know what to do. Kayla was going to church with her mama. August of that same year, 4 months later, I had an accident offshore. I fell 42 feet. I compound fractured both ankles, my knees, hips dislocated, and by all rates, I should not be here today. I spent 4 months in the hospital. I've had 40 surgeries. Both ankles are fused. I still have trouble with my knees. I still have trouble with my hips and my back. We fast forward 1 year. Well, let's go to May of '98. After years, months, Kayla and her mama said, "You need to go to church." Well, I'm in a wheelchair. And we went to a little country church, probably had about that many people. 50, 60 people is all I went. I went every Sunday. I knew God was tugging at me, but I still had so many demons left. I couldn't forgive myself for the things I've done. And to this day, I still can't. But I went. Mother's Day of '98, my daughter and I were baptized together. Couldn't walk still. And their baptistry was about 6 steps up and into a big old wash tub. And when you can't walk, I heaved each step on my rear end up the steps and backed in backwards on my butt just to get in the baptistry. So I was baptized. I'm like everybody else. Oh, everything's going to be good now. I'm still going to church. I had church come visit me. They'd bring, anything I needed. 4 months later, my wife passed away. 1 year and 5 days to my accident, she passed away. All that faith I had, it went out the window. I'm not going to lie, I was mad. It took me a whole year to figure out why that happened to me. And to this day, I tell somebody, it brought me to church. It brought me to God. You do the math up, I was working 2 weeks on, 2 weeks on offshore. I'd have missed 6 months of her life. I spent every day with her. She'd come, when I was in the hospital for 4 months, she came down and she'd get her radiation and treatment 3 floors below me where I stayed, and they would wheel my bed down to her, and we'd sit there and talk for hours. And when she went home, they'd wheel me back upstairs. When she passed away, I couldn't figure out what to do, how to do anything. I had a young daughter. I couldn't walk. I was facing surgery still, and nobody around to help me. But like I said, when God got a hold of me, he said, "I'll let you be with her every day. Trust me, I'll see you through it." And one thing I remember, my doctor who put me back together, and good Christian man, we still talk to each other. He said either 3 things are going to happen. He said, you're going to make you stronger, you're going to be addicted to painkillers, or he said, you're going to end your life. He said, because this kind of stuff will traumatize you for a long time. You still have pain. To me, it made me stronger. I don't know how to give up anymore. My glass is never empty. It's half full. It's got to be half full. He has blessed me so many times, I can't even think how many times he's came and Said, there you go, take it and run. I moved up here in 2000. I married a lady from Georgetown. I look back on it, and it was maybe a mistake. Maybe he didn't want me to come here, but I think he did. But I ended up divorcing her after 4 years because I wasn't happy. I wasn't me. Those of you know me, know me. I'm blue jeans, t-shirt, country. I don't know how to do anything, but work hard. I'm going to tell you what's on my mind. If it's not right, I'm sorry. So we divorced, but I went to church. I still went to church. I went to church, that place up there called Faith Baptist Church in Georgetown. I met a man up there, one of the 3 men that influenced me a lot since I moved to. His name was Dr. John Blackburn. He kind of took me under his wing, and he helped me a lot. He gave me perspective on how to do things and the proper way to do things. He never judged me. Never did he judge me. Well, not being a very computer kind of guy, and my daughter's like, I'm in college. You need somebody. I said, well, there's nothing really in Faith Church but mature older ladies or young ladies. I don't want nothing to that. So she said, well, let's set a dating service up. So I went online, and she helped me out a little bit. And most of you know Diane. She worked for Larry Doherty. And we started talking back and forth, and one thing led to another, and we started dating. A couple years later, we ended up getting married. Moved to Berea. I have no regrets about anything except for what I've done in the past. I know I sin every day, but I know the Lord loves me enough. He forgives me for my sin every day. The things He's allowed me to do about sports, most of you don't know, I drive for Georgetown College, the basketball team. I get to minister to these guys, these young men, probably about 5 to 6 months out of the year, because I see them so often during games, during practice. So that's one thing He's blessed me to do. I do this. I have a ministry that I kind of started with them by sending a good word to them each and every day, a Bible verse. I get on my phone, and I started this about 5 years ago, and that's how I read the Bible. I'm not a reader, so I get on and I start reading one book of one chapter until I kind of understand it. Then it's something will hit me, and it says, that's the one to send. So I started out with that. And these young men were like, okay, yeah, send it to me. Well, 1 led to 2, and 2 led to 3. I send 199 texts out every day, Bible verse. I send 21 emails out for those that do not get text messages. And I send them out to ministers. I send them out to fellow deacons. I send them out to opposing coaches and players not from Georgetown. I've really never met nobody I haven't liked, because my glass is always half full. I have to have it that way. But God has blessed me so many times that I know that He's always with me. He'll never forsake me. And He gives me what I need each and every day. When Diane and I lay down at night, we say our prayers, and usually the last thing I say, and this is the last thing I'll say today, is I thank Him for allowing me to open my eyes up in the morning and allow me to put my feet on the ground, because each day is not a given. I know each day He allows me to wake up, there's something He wants me to do. Whether it's send all those out to be a light for somebody, and today I feel like today was a good day. Ken didn't ask me to do this. I volunteered because I felt like I needed to share this with somebody. Whoever it was in this room, I don't know. Whoever sees it online, I don't know. But I had to do this. I appreciate y'all's time. Thank you.